Welcome to the show, Bryce.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, Bryce, I have really been enjoying your podcast, and it's called Accidental Experts. I think that is the perfect show name for parenting.
Yes, because we're all becoming accidental experts in our own
Yeah.
kids, right? So fun.
What led you into podcasting?
Yeah, it was by accident. My best friend and I were talking and we kept answering the same questions. She's a pediatrician. I'm a therapist. I was like joking and said, "Hey, we should do a podcast." She was like, "Yes, you should." I was like, "No, I thought you were going to tell me this is a terrible idea." But then I just couldn't stop thinking about it, helping families have access to information that professionals have that parents can't get or with like different perspective. My goal was to create a library of all the things we're dealing with in parenting to have a place for people to go.
Awesome. You are a social worker by trade and you do therapy. Are you in private practice?
I am, yes, in Kansas City. I have a group and there's 7 other therapists. We see a variety of things, but I primarily do children and adolescents and then adult
Hmm.
women with childhood trauma.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So often, in helping people with OCD, the parents have a hard time knowing how to talk to their kids. And then in general, parents these days are struggling. There's so much information out there that then even getting information from trusted sources. So, in starting off, I don't know, and maybe this is too vague of a question, but what do you think it takes to be a good parent?
So I will start by saying I have never met a bad parent. I think we all want to do our best, right? And our kids do
Yeah.
also want to be good. Oftentimes, we find ourselves in a position where we are rating how well we're doing as a parent according to how well our kid is doing. But
Ooh,
but that's not really how it works, right? Our kid can be struggling and we can be a good parent. We can
that's
also
so
be a good
sweet.
parent and our kid can be doing really well.
Okay. With parenting, and let's say your kid has a lot of anxiety or even the OCD stuff, like how does a parent like talk their kid through that or help their kid through that? What are those things they can do?
What's challenging with anxiety and OCD is we don't want to feed the anxiety. We don't want to contribute to what is going on with that anxiety. And one of the things that I think really works is empowering our kids to recognize that things are hard, being a good listener as a parent, not jumping to problem solving, right? Because
Yes.
oftentimes we're like, oh, I know what this is. I can solve this for you. And our kids
Mhm.
actually don't want that. We want autonomy as adults too. We don't want somebody deciding all the things for us. We are wired to push against that, regardless of how old we are. Somebody solving problems for us, unless we want it, right? If we want our parents to solve a problem for us, we're going to say, "Can you help me?" versus them just jumping in to solve that piece. So I think that's
Mhm.
one piece, right? Is asking your kids what they are wanting, right? Like, how can I support you in this? And then also like trusting your gut. Like if it comes to anxiety or this OCD part, if you feel like you're feeding the worry that they have, or they continue to come back to that, they loop back to the same thing and you say the same thing and it never seems to get better, that's when we need extra help, right? We need a therapist who can help us with OCD. But when we're looking at a kid who has just traditional anxiety that is not causing a lot of impairment, like anxiety about a test. It's talking to them
Mhm.
about what skills do you have? How can I help support you? What do you need from me right now? How do you imagine this looking going forward? Reflecting back, what do you think you wish you would have done? Or like if you could change something, what would that look like? Does that help?
Wow. I love this perspective because I feel like there's so many angles that someone could take, but from what you're saying, it's like you're asking supportive questions to help your kid get to the solution that they want.
Yes.
And you have to honor that, which
Mhm.
is hard.
Sometimes we do know the answer, right? But if you have a partner and they know the perfect solution to whatever you're dealing with, my husband is often right about a lot of things. He's so smart. And often I will resist the things that he's saying if he says it in a way of, you should do this. Then I'm
Mhm.
like, nope. Even though I'm a
Yeah.
grown woman, a mom, right? And a
Mhm.
therapist, it's hard to not resist that part of solving the problem, but
Mhm.
offering solutions and including your kid in the solution. I think that is key.
That's awesome. This kind of opens the door to so many other questions I have now because one of the things I've noticed when I'm working with adolescents, they get so angry at their parents when their parents do something wrong and
Mhm.
their mom or dad doesn't apologize.
Yes.
Do you see that?
Yes. Because
Gosh.
we expect our kids to do that, right? I expect you to
Mhm.
apologize when you've done something wrong, but then I am not willing to do that as a parent.
In thinking about a scenario where you're trying to support your kid in finding a solution, how do you support your kid? Let's say they're a teenager, but they've got a younger sibling and there's a lot of sibling conflict. A lot of times, the way I've approached it is try to train both kids to have better communication skills.
Mhm.
So that takes the parent being the mediator versus the dictator. But
Yes.
what's your approach when there's a lot of sibling conflict?
Yeah. So I think sometimes it's about understanding what's behind the sibling conflict, right?
Mm,
Because sometimes it's not just about, I want that toy and they have it. Like sometimes there's jealousy. Sometimes there is an unspoken or maybe spoken expectation and they feel like there's a double standard. Sometimes it's that their need isn't getting met, right? So I think there's a lot of
yeah.
things that can be behind that. So I think it's about curiosity. So the
Mm,
way that we work in our house and the way I suggest to parents in my practice is I will ask
mhm.
questions of each kid separately. So, say there's a conflict over something. Sometimes it's, hey, we're having a hard time with this. We're going to put this away for 5 minutes and then we can bring it back out and see how we can do with this. Right. But oftentimes, conflicts seem to be bigger than that. So, I'll say,
Mhm,
what do you think happened here? What is
mhm,
upsetting you about this situation? And so then that kid will tell me what it is. Okay. So I hear that. Then the other kid, I'll say, hey, what happened? What's upsetting you about this? And they're going to tell me. And so now I have two perspectives. And so then I bring them together to say, okay, so this is what I heard kid A say, and this is what I heard kid B say. How can we come to an agreement? Like, what ideas do you have to
yeah,
solve this? Because my goal, I think as a parent, I want my kids to learn how to do this for themselves. Plus, it's just good skills for life to be able
yes,
to problem solve, right? To say, like, my perspective is this, their perspective is this. How do we meet in the middle? Is there a way that we can compromise or be flexible?
because that's life, and you have to ideally prepare your kid for the real world, and
Mhm.
life is a lot about compromises, negotiating, communication, so I love that approach, and bringing the kids together and saying, "How can we work this out?"
Yeah. And then both people feel heard because the parent
Yeah,
is saying, I'm listening to you and I hear your story, like, oh gosh, yeah, that would be really frustrating. It doesn't mean that I agree with their perspective. Your sibling does something and you punch them. I can understand what you are feeling and I can understand that you punched them. It doesn't mean I agree with what you did.
ooh, even better point, yeah, understanding, but also not enabling or condoning that kind of behavior. Very powerful stuff. Another type of scenario I run into so many times, it's kids of divorce. So tough on kids and parents. I imagine they're doing everything they can to stay together, but how do you support kids who are maybe freshly in a divorced household?
Yeah. I think oftentimes parents try in those situations to keep things the same. As much as we can keep the same, I think is fine. But they'll say to me, mom and dad are going to still spend holidays together, right? And
Mhm.
because that's easier on the kids. Or we're going to celebrate the kid's birthday together, or we're going to keep this family ritual. I actually advise against that because I
Okay.
think at some point that may not be possible. You may be in a relationship with somebody else, and then your kid has to change again. And so I think
Yeah.
that part is actually harder on kids. Like, as much as we can keep them at the same school with the same friends and the same activities, those things I think are more important. We know that things are going to change at home. Let's just change, find our new normal instead of
Mm,
trying to adapt what we're doing to hope that it's going to work out for the future. Mom needs her things, dad needs their things. What both parents need to have their routines at their house when we're parenting similarly, the chances of that happening are often very slim, and kids can navigate through those things. I think having a consistent schedule is key, right?
mm,
We're trying to put to bed at the same time. These days at one house and these days at the other house, or it's this week and then next week, whatever your family has decided and agreed to. Also, keeping kids out of the middle part, allowing them to love both parents, enjoy both sides and not quizzing them on things like, "Oh, how
yes.
was dad's house? How was mom's house?" Allowing them to share, but not requiring them to share. Giving them the space to have things that are, like, private, knowing that they're safe unless obviously something
Yeah.
unsafe is happening. Saying, like, "I want you to tell me anything you feel comfortable sharing, but also know that I love that you spent a lot of time at mom's house. I'm so glad you had a good time." And something
Mhm.
else that I think parents do in newly divorced situations is they say to their kids, "I missed you so much," which makes them feel bad about being at the
Yes.
other parent's house. You can miss your kid and you can say, like, "I love you. I can't wait to see you." But making them feel responsible for that missing keeps them from being able to enjoy their time at that other parent's house as much. And so, as much
Yeah.
as we can, not putting the kids in the middle and just allowing space to say, "How's this going? What's hard?
Mhm.
What do you
Mhm.
like about this? Do you feel like this is going well at my house?" And not talking as much about the other parent's house to just focus on what you can control, which is only your house, which is super hard. And I know that that is super hard, but you can't control what's happening at the other house. Obviously, again, safety being the only outside thing. But I think oftentimes parents will say to me, "I don't want to get divorced because I won't be able to control what happens at that other house." And the truth is,
Wow.
you can't control that other parent even when you are married, right? You
Yeah.
cannot control anybody else. And so I understand that apprehension, but just knowing that you give your kids a safe place to talk, knowing that you're not going to overreact and you're going to stay calm and listen to what they have to say,
Mhm.
establishing a new normal is the best step through a new divorce.
Yes, wonderful advice. And that's leading me into my next question here about control, because oftentimes someone with OCD, they very much want control and they're doing lots of behaviors and compulsions to try to get control. If you're working with a parent and their kid has anxiety and OCD and the kid really wants control, how do you coach the parent to help their kid?
Yeah. Control feels good, but is a sign of anxiety, right? The only person we can control is ourselves. The tricky part about OCD is it is in a way tricking our brain into thinking we are controlling ourselves. We are managing our situation. It lies to us about what information we need and how it's going to make us feel. The key is to validate your kid's feeling of like,
Yeah.
this may be scary or this is hard, or I can tell
Hmm.
you're struggling with this. And then to empower them by knowing that they can do it, that you believe in their ability to do that. So, like, let's say it's delaying washing your hands, right? So you
Yes.
would say, like, I know it's really hard to not wash your hands right away, but I know you can do this. I believe
Hmm.
in you, right? But I think that's just good parenting, right? We know that it works for OCD,
Yeah.
but in general, just empathizing with what our kids are experiencing because that is their reality, even if you see it very differently. If you're like,
Yes.
"I don't understand why it's so hard to just not wash your hands, just stop doing it." That doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Oh,
We all want to be validated to know that our feelings matter to somebody that we care about and that cares about us. So that validation piece and then the empowerment to say, "You can handle this."
and I love the empowerment piece because there are times, and you've likely seen it as well, where parents swoop in too prematurely and too soon. And it's almost like they're trying to save their kid from the anxiety and the
Mhm.
distress, which
Mhm.
I get it. But at a certain point, your child needs to learn that emotional resilience and mental resilience. What do you think about all that?
Yes, absolutely. I think it is so often I see parents like before we've worked on these tools swooping in, they see their help as good parenting, which is not bad parenting. It's just
Yeah.
because your kid has OCD or because your kid has anxiety, that swooping in actually disempowers them. It does the opposite of what you would like it to do. And so I think it's key to allowing your kid to we need them to struggle because otherwise how do they learn to be resilient? If you never have something hard,
Yes.
you're never going to learn how to get through it.
Exactly. Bryce, I really appreciate your time today. Do you have any words of wisdom or encouragement for the parents listening?
I have two things I want to say. One is parenting is so hard. And the weird thing is, it's supposed to be hard because not that it's hard in that we don't love our kids or we don't want them here. We probably worked really hard to get them here and to create this family. Our kids are going to go through really difficult stages, which are normal developmentally. And I think sometimes when we have conflict, and stress, we think that we're doing it wrong, but really we're doing a lot of things right. And there may be improvements. I'm still improving as a parent, and I've been a
Mhm.
therapist for over 16 years. I don't have all the answers, but I think it's that piece of if it's hard, it's okay. You can seek resources and support from your own networks, whether it's a therapist or friends that are going through with it. I love using my resources of experienced parents to say, like, how did you handle this? To just hear their advice. The other thing I think that is key, just in general, with raising kids is finding time to spend individual time with each one of your children, which I know with multiple kids is very hard, but those moments are so powerful for your relationship with them to just be one on one
Mhm.
with your kid.
That's so awesome. And Bryce, where can the listeners connect with you or find you?
Yeah, so my podcast is Excellent Experts with Bryce Hamilton, and we're all on all the podcasting platforms, but we also have TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So you can find us in lots of places.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.